Hey!
Hey guys!
Did that work? I hope it worked. We have no idea if it worked.
We're just talking into the void, everyone.
The instant messenger with the tech guy behind the scenes just said you're live.
Thanks, Ryan.
So Ryan, thank you. I'm assuming that we're talking to people. It's weird, but it's totally fine.
It's somehow weirder than our normal camera setup where we're just talking to a camera, and we've got 1,000 live streams, and somehow this is the one that feels like talking into a void.
750.
750.
So someone on the Game Theory subreddit actually brought it up the other day.
We have experience with this, we swear.
Their complaint was after 750 live streams, our microphones still have issues. So fair.
Okay.
But no, the difference is here we're talking to a screen, and there's no feedback. Like when we live stream, at least there's the chat. There's a little bit more live feedback.
Speaking of which, we will actually be diving into the chat at the end. We're going to be taking lots and lots of questions at the end. We're going to talk up here in the beginning. So bear with us, and then there'll be questions at the end.
Yeah, so the long and short of today's presentation is that, we're going to be talking about a lot of top level stuff about what it means when you start earning money on YouTube and kind of what are the next steps once you start trying to pursue a living on YouTube.
Yeah.
But because we're talking to a large group of people who come from a lot of different backgrounds, we're going to keep it very top line and make sure that it's very kind of like general interest, like 101 style stuff. And if you want to get into specifics and things like that, we'll try to address as many people as possible at the end, where we can get into more of the nitty gritty of kind of what applies to you or to more specific situations.
And it goes without saying, guys, but for those of you who may have seen us in person at previous VidCon events, we miss you. We're so sad that we can't see everyone in person this year. VidCon is one of our favorite events. It's really near and dear to our hearts. And so we are so sad that we can't see you guys in person. Just know that. And also, if you've been to our sessions at VidCon in the past, which it usually are like we cram like as many people as possible into a room, and then we talk about something businessy. But if you know us, you know that it's a lot of our personal anecdotes and personal stories that kind of tell you about whatever that thing is. So hopefully today, regardless of whether you're a YouTuber who's starting a business for themselves or you're just here to hang out with us because we didn't get to see you at VidCon, hopefully it'll be good for everyone, and we'll tell fun stories about our business, and hopefully everyone learns something fun.
Yeah, so, and for those of you who've never been to VidCon before or have no clue who we are, hi, I'm MatPat.
And I'm Stephanie.
And we're from Theorist Media, but most people know us as the co-creators of the Game Theorist, Film Theorist, Food Theorist,
now Food Theorist,
and GT Live channels on YouTube, where collectively we have, what's the 22, 23 million? I don't know at this point. I'm
somewhere
sorry.
in the early 20s millions subscribers.
Yeah, low 20 millions of subscribers.
We've been doing this for about 10 years. Our first channel launched about 10 years ago. We launched another 2 about 5 years ago, and then we launched 1 3 weeks ago. So we really have a lot of experience over time launching channels, building businesses, and expanding our business. And we've talked to a lot of fellow creators about it. One of the reasons why we did this presentation and why we wanted to do it and agreed to do it is because we've known a ton of creators who have become really successful very quickly and basically have no idea what to do with that. And a lot of creators are on YouTube because they want to be creators, not because they want to be business people. And so what we're trying to do today is just give some of the very basic tools that you need to make like the business part of what you're doing easier, so you can spend more time doing the creative stuff that you really care about.
Yeah, and what Stephanie said can't be emphasized enough, which is, neither of us ever anticipated being entrepreneurs or running our own business or hiring employees or things like that. I don't think either of us really wanted to do that. Still not sure if we do. But at a certain point in a channel's lifespan, once you start earning money, if you do want to pursue it on a professional basis, you kind of have to make that jump. You have to make that decision of, okay, this is something I'm taking seriously. This is, I want to make this what it can truly become, or kind of grow it out into something bigger. And every step along the way, there are business decisions that have to be made. And so this presentation is to start equipping you with kind of that soup to nuts, like, hey, now what?
Yeah.
Because like Steph said, there's a lot that you don't know, and a lot of stuff that we just had to learn through a lot of research, a lot of trial and error, and a lot of asking people, mistakes, talking to people, things like that. And so if we can kind of help ease that learning curve for you guys, everyone's better, and you're able to do, what's most important, which is focusing on the content that you make rather than all the business garbage that happens around it, because a lot of it is garbage, to be fair. And much to Stephanie's credit, like, she's been the one who's been brave enough for the two of us to really tackle a lot of that. And so, Stephanie's going to be sharing a lot of her experiences.
And we're sharing a lot of experiences and questions that we've heard from other creators too.
You're incredible.
Let's,
you're the best.
Thanks. Let's hop into it. Ryan's gonna pull up some slides, maybe. Okay, there we go. Nice. Okay, so this is just the cover slide. We can blow past this.
The business of YouTube.
There we go. Okay. So we first wanted to see kind of just who's here. So we're gonna go through 3 questions, and Ryan or some other hero behind the scene is going to tabulate the results.
There's the tabulation.
The first question. Okay, get ready to raise your hand for just question number 1.
Just question 1.
Just question 1. Raise your hand if you have a YouTube channel and have ever uploaded a video. You don't have to consider yourself a professional. Just have you ever uploaded a video? It also counts if you work for a business where like the primary business is uploading a video.
Yeah. Have you ever
uploading YouTube videos?
Yeah. Have you ever touched any sort of like online digital content? I'm going to raise my hand because we have indeed uploaded a video. I've uploaded a video before in my life.
Okay.
A couple.
Right.
Oh man, are we going to be split 50-50?
Oh, wouldn't that be exciting?
That would be exciting. It's slowly creeping up. Yeah, so your hand raise ability is, I think, like an overlay at the bottom.
Yeah, just click it down at the bottom.
We're all learning this together.
So we've got about 50-50 on that one.
Wow.
All right, perfect. All right, now, question number 2. Raise your hand if you want to be or are a professional YouTuber. If you actually do this, not even for a living, even for like a side hustle, but you make a little money off of it, or that's what you want to be doing.
Yep.
And no shame in it. Like the last 3 years or something, the U.S. News and World Reports have run studies for asking kids what they want to be when they grow up. The top choices used to be actress and professional sports player, and it's been YouTuber for like several years running.
Living the dream. Yeah. So we're talking about the exciting part of the dream.
So it looks like we've got about 55-45 there. That's also a great split. Okay, cool, perfect.
Fortunately, it's also the split of YouTube ad revenue to creators. So there you go, 55-45. Ha!
Okay, good. Also almost 60% there. Now, third question. Raise your hand if you've ever started a business or are in the process of starting a business. Okay.
Right, this one might be a little slower, which is fair and probably should be.
Yeah.
The 80-20-ish.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Good. That's great. Great. All we wanted to know was where we were. Okay, so that's split 80-20. Perfect.
Awesome.
Great. So that's good for us to know. Good for us to know where you are. And then again, questions that you guys have about anything at all will be at the end.
Yeah, like we said, we're touching a lot of top line stuff, but we'll dive into the weeds during the Q&A. So that way we get everyone general information and then can get into more specifics.
All right, let's go.
Next slide.
Next slide.
Swapping sides of the screen. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so we're here to talk about business. And the history of business on YouTube is that there is no history of business on YouTube. It's basically the start of this conversation. When we started doing this, first of all, no one had ever done it before. And so there was no one to talk about with it. And then as time went on, it was actually this like taboo subject to talk about.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, and when we say we, it's not like us in particular, but like the general YouTube ecosystem, right? It was looked down upon if you had people behind you, if you talked about your wider team, if you were anyone other than just a single person in front of the camera.
Even if you wanted to make money at all.
The truth, though, is since the very beginning, there have been, large companies, large production teams, things like that have been running behind the scenes, even if it has only appeared as like one person in front of the camera. The great example that I just met the other day, actually, I did a production with them, was Lonely Girl, which was one of the earliest like viral videos and one of the earliest like YouTube stars that people are like, oh, that's so interesting. She's like this single girl who's talking about her life and adventures, like one of the first vloggers, totally scripted, totally staged, and had a production team behind her.
Oh, that's so disappointing to hear.
Yeah, I met the team that was working behind her the other day, like literally last week. So
So the businesses of YouTube have been running since the beginning, but no one has really talked about them since like the last maybe couple of years, really. And that's, because a lot of people who grew up watching YouTube are now getting jobs, and now it's like, it's more okay to talk about. But when you hear about people in business on YouTube, you get this image of like some sort of like Team 10 lifestyle of like a mansion and a lion in your front yard and like 8 Lambos and a private jet. And that's not real. That's not real for the vast majority of people out there, and certainly doesn't really represent like what you should be doing to start your first business.
And in a lot of cases isn't sustainable, which is something that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So, that's an important point, is what is projected out onto the internet a lot of times is not reality. Go figure. But it's sometimes easy to forget that, some of these people who do kind of live the flex lifestyle aren't actually, like, they're getting that money from elsewhere, and it's a lot of times not coming from like the YouTube income that they're earning.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that.
That said, owning your own business on YouTube, totally achievable. I think literally anyone can do it, but it really helps to know a little bit about what you're doing to avoid some of the bigger mistakes early on. We can get into that. So today we'll talk about basically 3 things. What to do when you start making money on YouTube, like you have money coming in, like what do you do with it? How do you figure out how to build a business with it? What to do when you need help, like when you need to hire someone, how does that work? What do you do? And then how to keep your channel, to plan your business, to keep it going for the long term, sort of what Matthew said about how to be sustainable and not just buy a $200,000 car and then be bankrupt.
The $200,000 car will get you one good video.
And that's true.
It'll get you one good video, but it's not going to earn $200,000.
We made a lot of mistakes along the way, so hopefully some of this will help you guys not make the same mistakes we did.
I like that you say that as though we bought a $200,000
car. No,
the way that you segued from my sense to your sense made it seem, oh yeah, we made that mistake. We haven't. Definitely
we made other mistakes, not that one.
Still driving my 2008 Mercury Milan. It's been recalled.
The first thing that we get asked, actually, by like creator friends of ours, especially ones who like make it big kind of overnight, are, when do I actually need to be a business? They're just going along doing their thing. When do I actually need to be a business? And a lot of people will put this off until the last possible second. We've literally had conversations with our friends who have 4, 5, 6 million subscribers, 10 million subscribers, and are not a business. And it's basically because they don't know how, and they're scared of the process. And so we're just going to tell you what the process is.
And Stephanie, what does it actually mean to be a business? Because business, I think, is a scary word for a lot of people. And I think business comes with this connotation of like lots of employees and corporate offices, and suddenly you're the man.
Yeah. Far from the truth. You can totally be a business of completely yourself, just one person. And you should really start doing that as soon as you're making enough money to pay your rent, is sort of like a very general ballpark, but like, hey, could I make rent with the money that I'm making on YouTube? Maybe it's time for me to think about being a business, and that's not as scary as people say it is.
Yep.
Or people think it is. We'll talk about it. Okay, so one of the reasons or one of the things that people ask is like, why become a business? And again, a business just means, it's just a legal word. It means nothing about having employees or having an office or anything like that. It's really just about protecting yourself. When you start a business, you can basically take all the YouTube videos that you create, or the t-shirts that you create, or the graphic art, like the graphic art designs that you do, or anything else that you make, and you can basically put it in the business, not physically, just legally. The business will own your YouTube videos. It'll own whatever else you make. If you are any kind of artist or creative performer, anything that you do or make just basically sits in this imaginary place that is your business. And you are outside of your business, which means that if something awful were to happen, if someone were to ever file a lawsuit against you, if you were ever to get in legal trouble in any way, your business might, get in trouble, but you are outside of your business and are much less likely to get in trouble. So it protects you, it protects your family. And when you have a business, you can also do things and use tools that you can't use as an individual person. That's why it's beneficial to become a business.
Yeah, it's a layer of separation. So like when Stephanie said earlier that a business can literally be one person, that is very true, right? You can be a fan artist or cosplayer or whatever, and like you yourself might be the only person in that business, but now all of a sudden you have kind of a barrier or wall that is representative of your work and the stuff that you're doing. So that way, like Stephanie said, if someone comes after you, or there's some lawsuit or something goes wrong, right? The business is the thing that's being attacked and not you personally.
Yeah.
And so a great example of that, right, is like, say, your parents give you like maybe a bunch of money for Christmas or whatever. Like that is money that is given to you, the person, right? That it in no way is attached to the business. And so if someone sued you, they wouldn't have access to that Christmas money, but
they just have access to your YouTube.
They have, your YouTube revenue or whatever.
Yeah.
But if all of a sudden that business doesn't exist and you are just operating as a single non-business person, anything that you own, whether it's attached to the business,
it's all on the table.
It's all,
your house, your cat, everything.
Yeah.
And so you want to create separation between yourself and the work that you're doing online to protect yourself.
Yes.
Moving on. Hopefully we've sold you on why you should be a business. Okay, so how do you actually do it? Here, these are literally the steps, and we have these steps on here. I know they probably seem really silly to some people on this meeting, but we've had, again, conversations with YouTubers who are massively successful and making huge amounts of money who have no idea how to do this. And we've had phone conversations late into the night with people.
I think one of them that we had recently with some animation channels, like 3-4 hours long into the evening. Yeah.
So we've had these conversations with people who are massively successful but just don't know how to do this. So what do you need to make a business? You need to contact a lawyer. What kind of lawyer? A business lawyer. You literally Google small business lawyer in my location and you will find people. Bonus points if you can actually find someone who is an entertainment lawyer. I will say this makes a huge difference because they will immediately understand the business that you're in. Even if it's YouTube and not TV or movies or anything like that, if you can get a hold of an entertainment lawyer, they will be able to help you start a business. All you need to say is, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. I have a YouTube channel and I need to start my own business." And they will immediately be able to tell you what to do. There are basically 3 kinds of businesses that you can be. You can be an LLC, an S Corp, or a C Corp. And the vast, vast majority of YouTubers are either an LLC or an S Corp. Theorist Inc. is an S Corp. We have been since 2013. And it's because Matthew and I own the company together. If you're starting a company with your spouse, a lot of times you'll start an S Corp. If you're starting it as a single individual person and it's maybe a little bit smaller and just personal preference, you might start an LLC. Your lawyer will tell you which one is best for you. All you need to say is, "I'm a YouTuber, I'm starting a business, I need you to help me incorporate or become a business." Your accountants can sometimes also do that for you, but a lot of times the first person people talk to is a lawyer. You can also keep that lawyer on the phone and be like, "Hey, I've never started a business before. I need some contract templates that I can use over and over again." They can make you a few contracts that we'll talk about later, and they can literally just send you a template where anytime you hire someone, anytime you do a project with someone, or we don't usually do contracts for collabs, but you could do a contract for collabing with someone, and you use the same piece of paper every single time, change the name and the date at the top, have them sign at the bottom, and it's as easy as that. So you really need to start with someone who can get you incorporated and get you set up with a few contracts.
Ooh, Stephanie.
Yes.
What about LegalZoom? I've heard great things about LegalZoom.
You can totally use LegalZoom to incorporate yourself. True story, Theorist Inc., our company, was incorporated through LegalZoom. And actually, if we flip to the next slide, it's probably best to talk about this there. Okay, so this comes down to how much you want to spend to start your business. Lawyers will typically charge $1,000 to $1,500, at least in our experience in Los Angeles, to start a business, whether that's an LLC, an S corp, whatever it is. That's about the range. LegalZoom, I think, is like $200 or $250. So you can definitely save a lot of money. I will say we did it once, and then we hired someone to do it from then on.
Yeah, it's definitely a cheaper option. It's much more do-it-yourself, and LegalZoom is a great website for walking you through that.
Yeah.
What LegalZoom doesn't really offer, and I think that why we would opt to, use someone again, if you can afford it, why you'd opt to use someone is they just have expertise that you don't. They're able to answer questions that you don't. Yeah. It's faster, it's easier, they have more knowledge, they're able to serve as a advisor to you rather than you having to make those calls for yourself. So while we did do a lot of research independently about what are the differences between an LLC and an S corp and a C corp, and why should we be, one versus the other, having an expert who's done this hundreds of times before is really valuable and is ensuring that you're getting the help that you need and making sure that you're set up for the best success possible, as opposed to you doing your best and again, not knowing what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So it can totally be done on LegalZoom. It'll take you like 2 days on LegalZoom. It'll take a lawyer like 15 minutes. That's just kind of the reality of the situation. And the answer to like the bigger question on this slide is being a business expensive? There are definitely costs to being a business that you need to know about and be aware of before you get into it. So when we talk about like, hey, can you make rent with the amount that you're paying? For us, that was the tipping point of when it was worth it to take some of these costs on. When you're a business, depending on the state you're in, you may have to register. There might be an annual fee. Like California will charge you $800 to be an LLC every single year, even if you don't make a penny. It's outrageous, but I'm just saying that's what it is. I'm just saying there are some fees, so make sure you just check your state and see how much it'll cost you. It's usually not more than once a year. But once you start being a business, you also want to think about other things that we'll get into, like having an accountant do your taxes. Matthew and I are like the biggest DIYers out there. There was one year, I think 2012, where Matthew had to file taxes in like 6 different states, and he did them all himself. So we are the ultimate DIYers, but don't take on your business taxes yourself. That is asking for trouble. Get an accountant, and we'll talk about how important an accountant is.
Yeah, that is an absolutely true. I was in McDonald's literally every single day with my entire booth taken over by tax forms and research that I was doing as I was trying to navigate, like, you're right, 6 different states worth of taxes. Not fun, not a valid use of your time, honestly. And at the end of the day, again, like walking away from that experience, and we'll talk about it more when we talk about accountants, but it's one of those things that, because you're not an expert and that person who you're hiring or bringing on is, they're able to ultimately find ways to save you money or utilize things that you might not be thinking of, or pay for fees or things that you don't know that you're supposed to be paying for. It gives you a peace of mind. Again, like Stephanie has had to go through years of learning what she doesn't know, and I think what we ultimately walked away with is the peace of mind that some of these professionals are able to give you is a lot of times worth like it seems like a hefty fee, but the peace of mind in knowing that things have been done right and properly, and the amount of money that they're able to save you, or via like, hey, you didn't claim X, Y, or Z from your business expenses or things like that, is very valuable.
Yeah. So definitely invest in that for yourself. Don't wait till the end of the year to figure out how much you made and how much you owe in taxes on it. That is going to be a sad state of affairs.
Why is that, Stephanie? Why shouldn't I worry about how much I make at the end of the year?
Well, you should think about it before the end of the year, because unless you are already separating out how much you think you're going to owe in taxes, it's usually like a really rude awakening at the end of the year when you're like, oh my gosh, I owe so much in taxes. I'm like, maybe I spent some of that already. We've some YouTubers, we've run into like issues with them doing this, but also even people who are professional editors, professional freelance graphic artists run into this all the time. You get commissions, you get projects throughout the year, you don't really pay attention to how they're adding up, and then at the end of the year you realize you owe a whole bunch of taxes. We had one of our editors like a long time ago, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago at this point, but he was like, oh my gosh, I didn't calculate how much I owed in taxes until the end of the year, and he was like, you know, barely going to make rent in February or something. And so he, you know, he had to learn the hard way. Don't learn the hard way, pay attention and, you know, keep up with how much you're making so that you're not worried about that at the end of the year. The last one here, this is all fine, but what I really need is a great business name. This actually is just a true thing. It didn't fit anywhere else in this presentation, but I really want to point that out. If you're starting a business, pick a business name that's easy to spell and that you don't mind writing for like the rest of your life. I can't tell you how many times I've had to spell out Theorist Inc. to someone, Theorist, Theorist, and then is it fierced? Is it thirst? Is no one can get it. Please pick an easy name.
Go figure, no one can spell our name.
Yeah.
The last thing that you skipped over is the business expense line here.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about business
Yeah,
expenses.
everything is a business expense. There is a lot that you can write off once you become a business, which again helps offset some of these costs of starting it up. There's actually a lot that you can start writing off right away, but not everything. So don't go out and buy a car and be like, it's a business expense when it might not be. It might not be.
Most likely not.
Yeah. Okay, we can go. Okay. So congratulations, you legal zoomed it, you got a lawyer, they incorporated you, you're a happy little LLC, that's amazing. Now what? The answer for us, as boring as this sounds, is get to know your accountant. I'm not kidding. They are like a superhero in tweed, and they will.
Do they have the cool little green visor?
Yeah, and funny calculators that make lots of sounds that go ching.
It's like a slot machine, except it's like the antithesis of slot machine because it's how much money you've spent.
No, thank God they have much more sophisticated stuff now. But they're actually
83 calculator.
You can't imagine how well, like, your accountant has all of the networking hookups that you need for starting a business. It's not even a joke. So if you have a really good accountant, they will tell you when, if you, again, you know, get somebody you really trust, they'll tell you like, hey, you're making a lot of money. Let's think about how you can invest it. Let me introduce you to someone who can help you figure out the stock market or figure out some sort of retirement plan, you know, and all of those things that no one really wants to think about. You're probably not an expert in. We certainly were not experts in, but your accountant will know who to go to. Your accountant will know if you need to hire an employee. They'll know how to help you get started with that. They'll be able to introduce you to another lawyer if you need it. They'll be able to shoot you in the direction of like getting some insurance for your business. Like, let your accountant sort of be like your hub and also your sort of guiding compass. Yeah.
Ooh, how do I find an accountant and how do I know if they're a good accountant?
Oh, that's so hard, actually.
It is hard.
So places like LA and New York will actually have entertainment accountants. There are people who have worked on movies, worked on TV shows, commercials, that kind of thing. They'll almost immediately understand YouTube, at least a lot better than a regular accountant will. I've had to explain how you make money on YouTube to so many accountants, I can't even tell you. But when you find someone who gets it, you'll be able to tell. Make sure you interview interview 3 people, and you'll already start to get a sense of who gets it and who doesn't. They'll ask you about how you make your money. They'll ask you how you think about your money. They'll ask good questions, and you'll be able to tell that they're asking good questions. If an accountant doesn't ask you questions at all, they're a bad accountant. That's like your #1 tip off. And then if they seem willing to learn about YouTube, and if they seem like they're asking good questions, that's how you really know. And if they tell you you're spending too much money, you're spending too much money and you need to stop. There are a lot of people in LA, especially if you talk to like accountants for entertainment and for movie stars and stuff, they'll tell you horror stories of people who made a ton of money really fast and then spent it all and are broke now. It's because they didn't listen to their accountant. So listen to your accountant. Next. Okay. So you're a good business, you've got your business going, you've got your accountant, you're listening to them, and now you realize that your business is growing and you need to hire someone.
Didn't I just hire a lawyer and an accountant?
They are not people you have to pay on a regular basis. You just pay them every time you talk to them. So don't talk to your lawyer very much because they're very, very expensive. Talk to your accountant like, every quarter, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. They're not as expensive and it's worth it.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to emphasize here is even though we're talking about like hiring a lawyer and hiring an accountant, it's not actually hiring them on like a full-time basis, like working a normal job, right? They're people that you're paying
to hourly, like every once in a while.
Yeah, per meeting kind of. And so like Steph said, lawyers, you want to talk to them as little as possible because they will gouge you for everything that you're worth. So like an hour for them is like, all right, well, that's my paycheck this week. But an accountant, yeah, you're going to want to check in on a more regular basis. You'll notice in that earlier slide that one of the changes that happens when you become a business is that you're paying taxes more regularly. And that's just kind of part of transitioning into like business land.
But your accountant will tell you the exact dollar amount to pay.
That's
so just
exactly
pay
right.
attention to them. And you can meet with them at the beginning of the year and they can give you what are called quarterly estimates. So they'll estimate the amount that they think you'll make during the year. And they'll basically tell you on this date, pay this amount. On this date, pay this amount. And all you have to do is send in the checks. It's not scary. You can check in with them anytime if you think it's wrong. But they will literally tell you exactly what to pay and exactly when to pay it. So when you get to the end of the year, you won't actually owe any taxes. And it's a nice feeling to not owe taxes at the end of the year.
Or if like things have been incorrectly estimated,
they'll help you fix it.
Yeah, the tax bill will be maybe like slightly more or slightly less and you'll get a refund or like, but that's kind of the nice thing about it, right? And again, it gives you an excuse to check in with your accountant every couple months or so to make sure that you're both kind of on the same page about what you've been up to, where your money's been earning, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, hiring people. Let's talk about that. Most YouTubers put off hiring people. Most hire an editor first and then a production assistant, but it's really up to you. And you can hire people full-time or you can hire freelancers. And most YouTubers have a mix of both. We'll talk about the pros and cons on the next slide, but do you want to speak to like how long people put off hiring people?
Oh my gosh. So we've been talking a little bit about like these big channels that, didn't incorporate as a business or whatever. The thing that has always blown my mind are channels that are literally some of the like number 1, number 2 largest channels in the world throughout the history of YouTube, who were the number 1, number 2 channels on YouTube and still didn't hire an editor to do things. Years and years, they could pay hundreds of editors based on the income that they were earning, but just hadn't hired them. And the reason why that's a surprise, right, is hiring out someone to help you. Not only, like, it's a scary prospect because there's so much personal voice in what you do and kind of what you put out there in your videos. That being said, there's so many talented people out there who
want to help you.
They want to help you
work with you.
They'll be able to understand your voice and collaborate with you. And I think that's the biggest thing that's always been exciting for me. And I think once you kind of cross that threshold, you're like, oh, a whole world of opportunity opens up because now all of a sudden you're able to focus on what you're good at, which is, top line creative, or what else can we do, or what's the new video, what's a script going to be, whatever. And the editor is able to really dive into what they're most excited about, which is visually representing or kind of like emphasizing what you're doing through their unique talents. And together, you're able to add your expertise, they're able to add their expertise, and your powers combine to form something greater than the sum of its parts, which is always really cool.
Yeah. Let's talk about the type of people you can hire on the next slide.
Yeah. So
I want to be cognizant of our time.
Of course, segue over.
Okay. So what if you need to hire people? So you can hire people as a freelancer, like an editor. You can also hire a full-time editor. The pros of a freelancer are that they're easy to hire. Maybe you just want them for one project. You can bring them on short term, see how it goes. And there are fewer like taxes and fees that you pay with them. The cons are that you can't dictate their hours. You could come to them and be like, hey, I want you to edit this video. And they could just be like, no. And they're a freelancer. They can totally do that. A lot of our editors want to be freelancers. We've offered them full-time jobs, and they actually don't want that because they want to be free to work on other projects. And we also respect that. So it's really just up to you.
The free side of freelancer.
Yeah, exactly. On the full-time side, they're definitely much more expensive, and you need to offer things like benefits, time off, retirement plans, all of that kind of stuff. It gets much more complicated, but the upside is that they're only working for you. They're not working for someone else or doing side projects. And you can ask them to just like be on standby for you. Like, I'm going to have a video that comes through sometime today. I don't know when it's going to come through, but you need to be there waiting for it. And so that's sort of the upside, and it's totally up to you. Let's talk about actually hiring someone.
Exciting.
Okay. So we had a conversation with a YouTuber a little while back who had just set up a partnership with someone else for some music related stuff, and was really unhappy with the partnership. And so we were talking to them about it, and we were like, well, what does your contract say with this person who you're working with, this partner you have? And they were like, well, I don't know. I've never really seen a contract. And we were like, well, do you have any kind of paperwork with this person? And they were like, no. and you're getting millions of views. You've got this big partnership. You're working with this person on a professional basis, and you have no contract or anything with them. And if that relationship, goes south, if you have a fight, something like that, it is so important, no matter who it is you're hiring, to have some kind of piece of paper that says what they're doing for you and what the terms are, basically. So the first thing we always do, no matter who we are hiring or talking to about a business partnership, is have them sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. Most people are familiar with these, but it basically says, I'm going to tell you business secrets. You are going to tell me business secrets. We are not going to put them on Twitter, basically. And that's really all it is. Do this even if you're hiring your friends. Most YouTubers hire their friends, they hire their family, and they don't want to make them sign any kind of paperwork or contract. Don't do that. For yourself and for them, it's to hold yourself accountable, and it's to hold them accountable. It can be very simple. Have them sign an NDA and have them sign some kind of contract, even if it just says, I am going to work for you Monday through Friday from 5 to 5, or whatever it is.
9 to 5.
9 to 5.
I was going to say 5 to 5 is a very strange workout. I mean, we've had some editors who like to work from 5 to 5. Yeah. But no, to just kind of like piggyback off of that, it sucks to have to contracts suck, period. It's the worst. Like asking someone to formalize a relationship or sign an NDA. The thing is, it protects you, it protects them, and it most importantly protects your relationship with them. We hire a lot of our friends, and I like to think a lot of the people we hire, if they weren't friends, become friends.
We pay them to be our friends.
Sure, yes, we do. This is very accurate. But it's one of those things that, going in with a set contract outlines already what the expectations are for both sides. So that way, if things deviate, and one person is upset that you're asking him to do something, it's like, no, it was in the contract. Or alternatively, hey, you're asking me to do something that I did not anticipate as a part of this job. They can go back to their contract and show it. And so it's a lot of the business stuff is all about protection of you, protection of the stuff that you're earning, and protection over the people that you're hiring, their time, their value, and your time, and the relationship that you have.
Yeah. That said, if you are hiring siblings, roommates, friends, spouses, have a conversation, have a really real conversation about how, hey, if this job doesn't work out, we will still have our relationship on the other end. I can't emphasize how important this is to, separate your work from your personal life. And if it doesn't work out hiring your brother or your bro, just let it go and just be friends or just be family, and that is okay.
Yeah, that's a conversation that we have a lot, because we have a couple of our friends on staff that we've known for years, since like college, since before college, and we're always like, hey, would it be cool to work together? Sure, yes, absolutely. It gives us an excuse to see each other more regularly, catch up, things like that. But but at the end of the day, we agree before anything's signed or whatever that the friendship comes first. So that way, if things are getting tense or whatever, there's always that ability to kind of like mutually part ways, no hard feelings, because you don't want the business to be taking away what really matters, which is the personal connections that you have in your life.
Exactly. Have honest conversations about stuff like money and time off that rolls into this, and I'm just trying to save some time. The last thing is do performance reviews. I know that sounds silly, especially if you only have one employee, but YouTube is a place where there's no set corporate structure. It's sometimes hard for people to feel like they're progressing in their careers. And so meeting one-on-one, telling someone every once in a while, hey, you're doing a great job. Hey, here's something new that I would like to work on that will help you build your skills or help you build your career. Helping people who you hire feel like they're moving forward in their career is so important, because no one wants to get a job and then feel like they're standing still for a long time.
Those reviews also serve as a great safe space for that person to ask you as well.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is what I like to work on, or this is where I'd like to move next. So that way you as their employer can help them, guide what you're asking them to do into that new direction, so they can continue building skills and, like you said, growing in their career aspirations. So that's also the nice thing about reviews.
We're going to truck through these last couple slides, I swear. How do I know when my business needs more help? Just deciding to hire someone is really hard. We always wait a little bit too long until we're having like actual mental breakdowns. So maybe don't do what we do. But when our team is telling us that they're working too much, when they're feeling overwhelmed, or most importantly, I think, when there's a project that we really want to do, but we just don't have time to do it, we can, we take on someone new, because we're like, there's just no way that this project is going to get done unless we hire someone else to do it. Food Theory was the latest example of that. Back in February, April, oh God, whatever. A few months ago, we hired someone and we were like, Food Theory is your priority. Do not let this fall off of our plate. Do not let us deprioritize this. Make sure it is your job to make sure that Food Theory happens. And after 2 years of trying to make it happen ourselves, hiring someone is what helped that actually happen. His name is Luke. He's awesome. Woo-woo, Food Theory. Just a plug if you haven't checked it out. Anyway, so when you want to do something new and you just can't find the time, it's hard to let stuff go and give stuff to other people, but do it. Okay, next slide.
Brian told us if we need to run over a little bit, we can.
We might run over a little bit, guys. A little bit. Okay.
A little teensy.
If you've been to VidCon with us before, this is par for the course.
But here it matters less because no one's really waiting for rooms.
No, I was going to say no one's going to kick us out of this room.
They might actually.
Yeah, they probably could. Will. Okay, so look, one question that we also talk to people about a lot is just what their long-term goals are, and this is so important to know for yourself, for your business, for anyone else that's involved in your business with you. How big do you want it to be? How fast do you want it to grow? What is your goal at the end of the day? So there are a lot of ways that you can help your business. If you just want to sustain your business, there are a lot of safe things that you can do. And if you want to grow your business really fast, there are also a few ways to do that. One is by loss leaders. Think of a loss leader as being the Mr. Beast model. Mr. Beast has Mr. Beast Gaming, which he runs at a loss, so he can funnel all the money into Mr. Beast's main channel, where he gives away hundreds of thousands of dollars and buys and islands and all of the stuff that he does.
It's the reverse. Mr. Beast's main is at the loss. And
sorry. Yeah, gaming makes the money that funnels over to Mr. Beast's main so that he can grow that as fast as humanly possible. It's a tough model to do because he, now he has to run 2 channels really in order to just support one.
Yeah, and one of them is losing money. Like that's the trick, right? If you're losing money off of one thing, that's scary, right? Netflix operated at a loss for a really long time, but now they're doing great. So congratulations, Netflix.
Yeah, so it can absolutely work. It's just a riskier strategy, but it can help you grow faster. And there are other things like you can sell your t-shirts in order to, invest in your camera equipment and stuff like that. So there's there are totally things you can do on the loss leader side. There are also YouTubers who have taken on investors. Just be careful with that. You know, the FaZe Clan is famous for it. A bunch of TikTokers now have investors. Team 10 has investors. And sometimes they're giving them literally millions of dollars. But when you take on investors, you usually give away a part of your business. So technically investors might own, you know, 30-40% of your channel or of your whole business. And so just think really carefully about what kind of control you're willing to give away in order to grow faster.
Well, another thing I was going to say is it's about control, right? Not only do they own a chunk of your business, which is fair, right? They gave you a huge chunk of money. There would be an expectation of them, you know, earning it back or, you know, finding a way to kind of like monetize what you're doing. That makes sense. The trick though is if you're giving away a lot of that ownership, now all of a sudden you're beholden to those people and what they want, right?
And so, flip to the next slide and talk about this actually.
And so that's the thing that we would watch out for there is like, hey, great, you got yourself this big cash infusion to do whatever big scale project that you want, blow out your own Team 10, whatever. The trick though is, you know, you have people, you have bosses basically at that point who are like, hey, we need you to start earning money or branch off into this other thing that you yourself might not think is a good idea, but you kind of have to follow what they're saying because they're the ones that gave you the money in the first place. So that's the trick with investors.
There are a lot of investors getting into the YouTube space, so that's why we bring it up. A couple of years ago, it would not have been a relevant thing to talk about, but there are a ton of investors now who are looking to scoop up YouTube channels. So just be very careful if you're having those conversations.
YouTube channels or create influencers themselves, right? Like there's a big market right now of people with money, you know, old guys with money who, you know, it's true.
We're going to buy a bunch of 17-year-olds a mansion in LA. I mean, that's kind of it.
That is, I mean, when you boil it down, that is what it is, right? We're going to make a star out of you by giving you this mansion and go influence the masses, and we're going to make you into a TikTok star or whatever.
So just be careful if you get into those conversations. Next slide, and I think this is the last slide, and then I swear we're going to do questions. At the end of the day, we also just wanted to, as a touch point, remind anyone who wants to be a YouTuber, who wants to do a YouTube business, is that the business doesn't define who you are. We know we've over the last 10 years known a lot of creators, and some of them have had huge success, and some of them have had huge success, but then also have faded away. And at some point, you have to come to terms with the fact that your YouTube channel and your online identity is not who you are as a person. On YouTube, it can feel like you are your business, but it's important to know and remind yourself all the time that your self-worth is not defined by YouTube.
No.
So just remember that and try and get a little bit of perspective every once in a while.
Yeah. So let's do questions. We're gonna burn through a bunch of questions here. So have at it. Could be anything from who is the purple guy to I have an investor knocking down the door. What do I do? If it's who is purple guy, I don't know.
Hi.
Hey there.
Hey there. Hey Matt. I had a question about what is a loan out corporation and why would you have one as a YouTuber or TikToker?
Mm-hmm.
A loan out? I mean, it's much more common. It's a term that really comes from like the studio days, right? Where studios had long-term contracts with actors. The loan out system for studios is basically, just for everyone else, is a system where a studio basically had an actor locked down under a contract and would loan them out to other studios to do a movie or a project or something like that. When Matthew does hosting or when he does any kind of he's done voiceover, like voiceover for Transformers or whatever.
Production we did last week for a YouTube original thing. I was loaned out.
Yeah, we have Matthew acting on as a loaned out actor. So technically, Theorist Inc. loans out Matthew as an actor. The reason why this makes sense, and honestly, a lot of contracts will default to structuring things this way, is because it protects Matthew as the person and puts the liability on, not me, but like on Theorist. So again, that idea of protecting and separating out your business from yourself. If a YouTuber is acting on a loan out basis, it means that they as a person don't carry much liability. If Matthew grossly insults someone on set, if he trips someone, he's not going to personally get sued. Theorist Inc. is going to get sued. It's not a great situation either way, but I would much rather our business get sued than Matthew as a person get sued, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
What else we got? Anyone else?
No
Just
other
hop in the
questions.
chat.
Everyone left.
That's it. They're like, oh, business. The worst. That was good. No? Did they all run away? They might have. I love how when we look at the participants, all of them look like old school, like 90s hackers with their like, I'm being censored right now. You can't see me. Oh, here we go. Hey there. Hi.
Hello. So my question, I am just getting started on the idea phase of my project, but I am really interested in kind of a niche history of an aspect of the Disney company. But I know Disney is copyright. So what are the legalities behind making content about something that's copyrighted like that?
Oh man. Oh shoot, we should send you the link to, we were just on a copyright panel last night with Super Bam and Legal Eagle and a bunch of stuff. But so that's a very complicated question. And fair use is really, it is a big gray area on YouTube. But we cover Disney stuff, right? We do it by using very small amounts of the original work and by making sure that what we are talking about is as analytical, as transformative as possible, so that we are not we're not competing with movies at all. You would never watch one of our episodes and then not watch a movie or a TV show because you're like, oh, I saw everything I needed in film theory. That's not the intention of the show. So trying to use as little as possible, trying to give as much commentary around it as possible is going to put you in the best position.
Yeah, in general, like the fair use and what is and isn't claimed or what is and isn't okay, a lot of times depends on the copyright holder.
And we are not lawyers, by the way. This is not legal advice.
But this, but this is our recommendations as people who know how the system works. Is so like if you're touching on sports or music or whatever, good luck. No amount of transformation or whatever is really, you're going to have to hard fight in front of you. Fortunately, Disney is one of those companies that, similar to like video game companies and a lot of other entertainment companies, they recognize that, you know, you talking about them is giving them some, you know, some level of promotion and is beneficial to their bottom line. And so in general, they're okay about stuff.
As long as you're not ripping down and re-uploading their whole movie.
Yeah, as long as you're not substantial parts of their content. The other thing to just watch out for is if it's a YouTube series, that's totally fine. If you're looking to, you know, sell it as like a documentary to Netflix or, you know, to some like subscription service or something like that, then all of a sudden it becomes tricky because now you're asking, then you have to clear the rights because you're asking for direct payment. But if it's just ad supported on YouTube, as long as, you know, you're using the minimal amount of footage possible and that it's transformative in some way, you should be clear.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, of course, good luck. And as we wait for the next question to load up, it's worth noting to avoid to avoid automatic claiming on YouTube, this is useful. Use under 6 seconds of footage. And YouTube uses heat maps to recognize when footage overlaps with like a reference file or something that's already in the system. So whatever you can do to throw off the heat map is something that's going to help you avoid getting getting automatically claimed by the system, right? So having some movement appear on screen over top of the footage that you're using, or having cutting it up in a way that it's not like one long sequence that's matching a heat map, but instead like maybe a 2-second sequence and then you know, fast forward a couple seconds and then a 3-second sequence and then something else. Like cut it up, use minimal amounts, have effects over top of it to throw off those heat maps. That's going to protect you from the automatic claiming that the system kind of runs on.
That said, there's still there are a number of myths about it too. Like YouTube catches almost can catch almost everything. So if you flip images, if you shrink them, if you stretch them, like that's recoloring. YouTube is way too smart for all of that, as they should be. But those kinds of hacky tricks generally don't work. Just use as little as you can.
The big thing is the movement stuff. Like if they see something flying across the screen and that something becomes a big red mark in their heat map, they're like, oh, this doesn't match what I had for this reference file. And so it lowers their confidence. Long story short. Ryan Cole says that we do have more. So Ryan, bring two more questions. Great. Okay.
How many hours do you work a day yourself? This is from Christina. I'm asking because I'm curious what you think what you think is a full work day. Creative work tends to be more intense, so many creators work fewer but very productive hours. Thanks, regular jobs.
Our hours are long and productive. I think unlike a lot of other YouTubers, we work a lot longer and a lot harder. So our work days, like we don't have weekends really. Like we were just making a joke about this earlier on a production call that we had, where one of the guys, Luke, the new guy on the team's like, he was counting my weekends as days I had off or whatever, and we're like, Matt doesn't get weekends. Like there's no weekends here.
And we have a son, so we actually do need to take time away from working to make sure that we take care of him. So that's also really important. So whenever we're not working, we're also with him. So
that's forced us to reclaim a lot of our time.
I was gonna say, before we actually had a baby, we were working like really around the clock, and now I would say we try to take more time. Matthew works longer days than I do, but we are still both occasionally known to be like up at 2 a.m. recording emails, whatever. But that said, it is important to find a sustainable work style for you. If you are the type of person who works really well in short bursts and then needs to walk away, do that. If you're the kind of person who needs to sit down and hammer through something, no matter how long it takes, if you're sitting there for 12 hours, do that. It's really not about, like when YouTubers do like what I do in a day, it kind of bugs me because I feel like people try to emulate that because they think that's what the picture of success looks like. And the picture of success is only as hard as you can work in whatever schedule you can work.
Yeah, I mean, what we do in a day, like in general, I'm usually starting work around 8 and I go straight through, like I maybe give myself lunch and then it's usually till 6, and then 6 is when it's like, okay, like Ollie time, dinner time, all that stuff. And then
there's usually some work after.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's usually like once Ollie's asleep, then it's usually between like 8:30 to like 11, maybe later, depending on what needs to get done. Yeah,
we do have some days off here and there.
Yeah,
we're not totally crazy.
I will. So there was a point 4 years ago where we gave up Christmas.
When we first started Film Theory, that was the year of like, okay, we need to get control of our lives because we realized that we worked a 10-hour day on Christmas. Yeah. And it was like, and we literally looked at each other at the end of the day and we were like, we can never do this again.
Yeah, that was the breaking point where we recognized how much of our life had been taken over by work.
Yeah.
And so then for the subsequent, 3 years, it's been slowly bit by bit clawing back that time and figuring out how do we regain those hours. And so it started as like a half day on a weekend, then it became like a full day on a weekend, then like a weeknight here and there. And at this point, we've been able to achieve a lot better balance. It's still, it's still pretty heavily skewed in the work direction, but we're much, much healthier than we once were. Much.
Okay, I think this would be our last question.
Maybe. Okay, here we go. This is from Anissa.
I'm in the beginning stages of becoming a content creator, but I'm also a freelance designer on the side. When it comes to being a business, would it be possible to have them under one umbrella? Yes, absolutely. It's totally up to you. I'll tell you how we sort of do things. We have our YouTube channels under an umbrella, but we also, if we do a big project like a YouTube original or a series for another platform or just any other big project, we will actually start a separate LLC just for that project. Again, it's all about separating things out. So when we did our YouTube original, for instance, we started a completely separate LLC for it. just in case something happened on set. Someone, you know, we had that episode where we played soccer with cars. What if somebody got run over? You know, like, we don't want that liability. And so we separated out that whole production. Now, if you're a graphic designer and a YouTuber, graphic design, unless you're trying to, you know, I don't know, unless you're trying to graphically design a dollar bill and then print them for yourself or something else. I'm trying to think of like a situation where you'd be under a lot of liability. You probably wouldn't. So putting those two things under the same umbrella, absolutely. And whatever situation makes sense for you. Basically, if you're worried about something, if something feels particularly risky, or it feels like, you know, you might get in trouble for doing this, then maybe put it in its own business. But otherwise, you can actually house things together.
It's also one of those things too that it's not like a one and done decision, right?
You
like,
can always change your mind later.
Yeah, if at a certain point, say your design business or your YouTube business really takes off, but you still want to pursue the other angle, you can break that off, right? And suddenly it becomes just a separate spin-off company. Not spin-off. I said that as if this is a lingo word, but it's not. I just was using air quotes for no reason. I just wanted to do air quotes. But you can spin it off into its own standalone company, and that's totally fine. Like, that doesn't have to be something that's a decision made at the beginning. You can just create one company. As it grows and develops, you're like, hey, this has gotten to a size where maybe it makes sense to, you know, deviate away or kind of break off things. That's when you would start your second one. So those decisions can happen midstream if you want.
Anytime. I think Ryan said we had one more.
Right. One more bonus. No, he said one more bonus.
Okay.
Here we go. Miriam.
Hi.
Hey there.
So my question is, when would you suggest to start trademarking, say, your channel name and stuff like that?
Ooh, that's a great question.
That is a great question.
It depends on whether you can.
That's a big one.
Actually, I would check the availability of a channel name for trademarking. But in terms of that, you might not actually have access to it, just depending on if it's a common name or something like that. If it's not, honestly, I wouldn't put it as a huge priority.
So the problem with trademark, right, is, and again, not legal advice, but, you know, friendly legal advice, I guess. The problem with trademark is that it requires you to enforce that trademark. And it requires you to defend that trademark. And so we've known our stuff is not trademarked. Largely because you can't really trademark game theory. Like, it is an economics concept that can't officially be done. That being said, we've known YouTubers who have tried to trademark their brand name and things like that. And the problem that they've had, right, is all of a sudden you have to actively go out into the universe and crack down on anything that might be a challenge on that trademark. And that's not just like, you know, other channels or other entertainment properties. It's restaurants, like it's across the board. So trademark is a pretty aggressive thing, and you have to be in a position where you're going to be able to kind of like fulfill the legal obligations of enforcing that trademark, because if you don't, you lose the trademark.
You kind of have to be like ready to sue people, and we're not ready to sue people just in general.
And a lot of people aren't. Like, I think that's the reason why you don't want to.
But if you remember a few years ago, Fine Brothers Entertainment tried to trademark the word react, and people had a really strong negative reaction to it because
Trademarks. Not anymore.
Because they thought that if they created a React video, that Fine Brothers were going to sue them, because that's kind of the expectation. If you have a trademark and somebody else uses that word in like a similar context, that you're going to go after them. So obviously, any artistic works that you create are automatically copyrighted. You don't have to do anything with that, including any logos that you have. Logos fall under copyright, so you don't have to trademark a logo. It would really only be like your channel name or like a slogan or something like that. And I would just think about whether you're really ready to defend it.
Yeah, that's the big question mark.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Fun times.
That's a wrap.
Okay, so Ryan says that we're all good with the questions. thank you all for joining us. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Hopefully.
And thanks for staying with us. Thanks for staying over. We appreciate it. Again, we miss you guys all. We'll see you next year in person, hopefully. If VidCon invites us back, who knows?
Right. Who knows? It might be like, they were boring. So yeah, thank you all for joining us. Hopefully you're all staying safe. Hopefully the world returns to normal at some point. We'll get to see you all in person soon. But in the meantime, that was just a panel for you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.